Last episode we went over the engine prep, transmission install, and just a couple other things on the van. This episode we're going to be going over everything else. At the end of this video we're also going to be headed down to V-Dubs in the park, a cool little Volkswagen show camp out in Medicine Park, Oklahoma. Going to be taking the van with us, and we got a lot of work to do before then. Working on the turbo drain today. Here's the old one, just going into the side of the block. And here's the new one I thought I'd be able to make work. The plan was to make a fitting here and then bend this around going up into the turbo. Not gonna work out the way I thought it would. So I ended up making this little fitting. It's pretty basic, but it's a 3/8 pipe thread. And it'll come down and sit right here. Alright, and here that plug is welded in. I just have it tacked in right now, but I'll drill a hole from the back side, the inside of the oil pan, and then weld the seam of the hole so it's sealed from the inside, and that'll help it all drain down to the oil pan. I think that's a pretty slick, simple way to do it, and it's all going downhill into the pan. So motor is in. Obviously not mounted with the engine mounts, but it's in with 2 ratchet straps and a lot of sweat got that thing in there. So now the next step is to get the motor mount bars in and then start mounting this thing for good. This thing is sitting level. Super excited. Just got to put the window in and it'll be all sealed up, ready to go. Got the starter adapter in. Pretty nice little built aluminum setup. Here's the SR407. It's off of an automatic TDI Volkswagen and does not fit with the adapter. So as you can see, the top bolt's lined up. The bottom one is not. Here's the 408X. Top bolt lines up, bottom bolt doesn't line up. Top bolt lines up, bottom bolt lines up. So it is directional, and it'll only work on the manual transmission TDI starters. Got some storms coming in today, so we just got the rear window in as it started to rain. I ended up using this small string and just wrapped it around the seal twice and then pulling it through. I've kind of got it sketchily rigged up with the computer, all the power wires. I had a little fuel pump put in so it could prime the whole system, and ended up cracking the number 3 injector, running the fuel pump, and I cranked it for a second and it kind of fired up. Started spraying fuel everywhere, so I'm going to tighten that, and then we're going to try this again. Here we go. That is running. That started. It doesn't have turbo hooked up, but by golly, that's running. All right, so now that we know it will run, I have a bunch of work to do, and I have to leave in 7 days, 6 days, and I have to work 2 more days. So this week is going to be absolutely crazy. But we'll do our best and see if we can't make it. Here's my turbo intake. It was just one piece from the factory. Ended up cutting it in half and then heating up both halves with a heat gun, and I was able to press it into a circle and get this pipe extension in there. Just going down to the turbo inlet. Got a rough mount for the intercooler. eventually I would like to get a water to air intercooler, but for right now I'm just going to do air to air. I had to do the same trick, cutting and warping that plastic to fit over a pipe. Here's some of the cooling system that I've finished already. This is going to the radiator, this is going to the radiator. These go down to the oil heater cooler. This one also goes down to the oil heater cooler. On the other side, there's a heater core outlet, and then here's the other heater core inlet or outlet. Don't really know. Doesn't really matter. Got the coolant reservoir hooked up. Made two little brackets that hold that in there. Made this little adapter that is going to hook up to the vent pipe, and that just lets bubbles come out of the engine, the coolant system, so it doesn't get a bubble at the top of the motor and overheat. I also got the serpentine belt put in, everything hooked up, ready to go. I got the wiring for the starter hooked up. 3 more days until we gotta leave, so time is definitely ticking. Got the exhaust welded up as well. For now, it'll be alright, straight piped. Got the turbo ducting all finished up. Out of the turbo, going into this elbow, and then this 2-inch pipe going up into the OEM plastic elbow, into the intercooler, and then out, and into the intake. I got a little fan on top of that intercooler. Again, eventually I'll put in a water cooled, but for now, that'll do. I ended up pulling this piece out and making one out of aluminum. It was a little bit too long and didn't really look great, so I figured the aluminum would fit better and it would also help with heat dispersion. So I got the power steering pressure line hooked up. And right now I'm working on a power steering reservoir. Here's the finished wiring harness. It came out really nice. Got some looms and taped it all up. So that came out really nice. The loom makes it look super clean. Here's the battery cable. I did the same thing with this. Loomed it and then heat shrunk around everything. So wiring harness is ready to go in tomorrow, and hopefully everything goes well. And here's all the work I got done for today. I built a reservoir for the power steering pump. Got that all hooked up. Also got the fuel lines hooked up, return, and the fuel sending. Finalized all the turbo ducting and had to epoxy that plastic back there. That should harden overnight and be ready to go. And that's about it for today. I think we're making really good progress. Tomorrow I've got to build some coolant ducting to go back to the burned up stuff, which is right down there. I did run into a little hiccup today. The port that hooks up to the oil cooler snapped off. I threaded it for a 3/8 NPT and was going to epoxy it, but ended up just ordering a new one. I didn't want to risk it. Tomorrow I've got to fill the transmission up with oil and get that finalized. It is supposed to rain tomorrow, so I don't know how much I'm going to get done underneath the van. But I saved the wiring harness for tomorrow. At least I'll be able to work with that inside. Anyway, that's all the work I'm going to get done for today. We've got 2 more days, really a day and a half until we got to leave. So I got a trailer that I'm going to hook up to the truck, and just in case this thing is not ready, which is a possibility. I'm pretty optimistic, but it is a possibility that we won't be ready. I'll be able to load it up on the trailer and tow it down to Medicine Park, and then it should drive to the campsites. All right, we're back at it this morning. We got a long list of things to do. Kind of feels like a roadkill day today. Just rushing away, trying to get the list of things knocked out to make this thing drivable. So far today, I got one of the axles in. I ended up taking the gas tank out. I wasn't confident that I was getting all the fuel out, and I'm glad I did take it out. There's probably a gallon of gasoline after leaning the tank all the way down and draining it. Tank is in, fuel system is finished. I put a nice little fuel filter up there. Just ignore all that crap, that's extra. Got the battery cable put in, got the ECU plumbed in. I just got to run the wires now and zip tie them all, plug them all in. I also got the old pedal out, the old throttle pedal, and now I'm working on putting the new one in. It's drive-by-wire, so it will be a little easier to hook up. I also don't have a steering wheel. The steering wheel is off because the keys, for some reason, won't work. So I had to take it off, and I'm bringing it to a locksmith to have a new key made, or to just bust out the guts of the ignition switch so I can use a screwdriver. Next thing I'm working on is extending the wires for the pedal and the OBD2. There's about 7 wires that I had to cut, mark, and extend to get up to the firewall. Now I got them up. It actually worked all right because I was able to drill a smaller hole to get them through the firewall than I would have had to drill with these. Got all the boost ducting in permanently now. I also mounted the N75. I have to plumb that tomorrow. Like I said, fuel is all done. Got both the CV axles in. I got the shifting rod in. Tonight I'm going to be working probably all night long. I have to build coolant pipes for both the radiator in and out, and I also have to run lines for the heater core. Those are a lot simpler. It's just going to be running soft lines. I'm going to push our leaving date back to Friday. I'm going to leave Friday morning, whether this is on the trailer or whether it's on the road. We're leaving Friday. Out working on the van pretty late tonight. We got one of the coolant pipes done. It's just going down and it meets up with the OEM plastic ones. Next step is to continue the second coolant pipe. And I just finished the coolant pipes. As you can see, they're going down there together. I just got them hung up with some wire right now. Got the coolant pipes all finished and put in permanently. And now I'm working on the heater core lines. I got one of them in. I had to make a bunch of these little adapters. Just had some aluminum pipe that I turned down on the lathe. Next step, I'm gonna go to a local Volkswagen shop and get some parts for the vacuum system. I'm just gonna get the vacuum ball and then some adapters for the vacuum system and the turbo actuator. Finally got all the vacuum lines hooked up and gonna try and run it now. Another problem arose. I was filling up the coolant and the coolant sensor for the ECU started leaking. It looked like the bracket I bought off Amazon for $10 didn't quite seal. Here's my final repair. It's just a very tight ring that I put on to space that O-ring out. And there it is going in the van. Hopefully that'll seal it off well. All right, I am calling it quits. Not really, but kind of. We are going to tow the van down tomorrow and just drive it into town from wherever we parked the trailer. I was gonna drive it. I would love to drive it, but we went and bled the rear brakes, and both of the bleeding nipples snapped off. So we were only able to bleed it from the line going into the slave cylinder. So anyway, right now I'm just getting everything buttoned up. I'm gonna weld the exhaust so it's sealed up, and then that's really it. I'm gonna get the trailer hooked up, probably get this thing loaded in the morning, and just start packing things and cleaning out the van for camping.